devils, it burned like fire. This burning desire, I have spoke with the tongue of angels. I have held the hand of the devil. It burned, it was warm in the night. I was cold as stone, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I believe in the kingdom come, then all the colors will bleed into one. They'll bleed into one. And yes, I'm still running. You broke the bonds and you loosed the chains, carried the cross of my shame, of my shame. You know I believe it, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. No, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Yes. Wow.
Well, so good to see everyone. No, so I read through this sermon yesterday, and it was 30 minutes long. And I don't have 30 minutes. So I cut, I deleted, I moved. I think I got it down to 29 minutes. No, David said 20 minutes, no more. So this is fluff. Don't add it. Don't start my timer yet. So, but it's so good to be your sabbatical minister in Reverend Marlon's absence. I'm so glad to be back. So. So if you're one of those who have in the last few years, maybe even last year, screamed at the television set, "That's a lie," then please feel free to raise your hand. Thank you. I am one of those people. Today's sermon title is A Post-Truth World with a question mark, which in essence means after truth, alluding to that there was a period when truth mattered. And now we're past that period. The term post-truth is no longer just a political cliche. It is now mainstream, part of the American vernacular. In 2016, it became Oxford's Dictionary Word of the Year. It is defined as the disappearance of shared objective standards for truth, relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. In short, people can believe whatever they choose to believe or whatever feels right to them. We all know the basic standards for what denotes truth. We were taught them in our Sunday schools, by our grade school teachers, our parents, grandparents, and the larger community. It has been said that the deepest and highest truth will always resonate deeply within your heart and soul as truth. Although at times truth may be scary, difficult, complicated, and messy, it is still the truth. The questions then are we living in a post-truth era? If so, how shall we respond to it, if at all? Truth has always been important to us Unitarian Universalists. In fact, it is foundational in the religious life of the typical Unitarian Universalist. Our fourth UU principle is all about a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And we also cherish our ability to doubt and reason in our search for truth and meaning wherever they are to be found. And we hold these faculties in high esteem. Together, we have become a fellowship of truth seekers, allowing for the constant flow of ideas, concepts, interweaving and interconnecting with other ideas and theories, enabling us to become what we are today, a movement of diverse voices, cultures, ideologies, and theologies, all making meaning together in the great endeavor of becoming beloved community. Don't forget, I was a former Baptist preacher now, all right? However, as a fellowship of seekers, we don't pride ourselves on or emphasize as much the answers as we do the questions and the search itself. In our movement, the method is the meaning. It is our dynamic searching that distinguishes us from other religious traditions, many of which are often regarded as static and unchanging due to their rigid orthodoxies. Years ago, as a Baptist minister, I had a crisis of faith. I started doubting before I knew whether I could or should. At some point, I came to the conclusion that the answers that had been given to me by society and authority figures could no longer be reconciled with the reality that was my life. Up until that point, as most fundamentalists do, I believed that I had all the right answers, and the rest of y'all were going to a very scorching hot place, Oklahoma. Nah. I'm talking about that place we don't believe in. But I had secretly begun questioning my faith, spirituality, and the concept of God. I was struggling to reconcile my faith with my reality, my sexuality, my race, and so on. And so I left my church and the ministry in search of something that could make sense of and meaning of it all. That journey ultimately led me here. It was 14 years ago that I found refuge within these walls. Here I began to deconstruct much of my religious experiences, and Unitarian Universalism made it easy for me to throw much of it out while also acquiring and testing new concepts and truths. I remember experiencing an immense sense of joy because finally I had found a place that allowed for my questions and my doubts. For 6 years, I traversed along with you, served many of you, cried with you, struggled, and yes, in many ways triumphed together with you before relocating to the East Coast. That was 8 years ago. And so, baby, I'm back. Still empowered by truth, a sense of purpose, and a deep respect for this community. I know that some of you can relate. I suspect that truth for many of us was the factor that not only brought us here, but also is what keeps us here. And so, like many of you, I'm proud to call myself a Unitarian Universalist. I'm proud to be a truth seeker. Which brings me to my first point. Now, y'all know y'all are in trouble when I've gone through half of my sermon before I get to the first point. But what we are witnessing in this supposed post-truth era is all over the globe, the truth is being overpowered by something egregious that is known as alternative truth. There's even alternative facts and alternative reality. The implication here is that one can choose another option when it comes to truth. Alternative truth is a tool used to malign, degrade, and suppress the real truth and the truth tellers. With alternative truth, there's no qualified or quantified measurement, no evidence-based or any reasoned argument to be had. You can't reason with alternative concepts of reality, which hold positions that are easily proven wrong to anyone with any grasp of science and history and a little bit of a brain. There's no diplomatic consensus, no point at which one could compromise. Now, we can debate about different variations of truth, absolute versus relative truth, objective versus subjective, normative and complex, and so on. But an alternative truth is nothing but a lie. A concerted effort to subvert any and all truth. And there's absolutely nothing we can do with an alternative truth but to destroy it by calling it out. And by speaking truth to power with every chance and every breath we're given. By speaking truth to every chance and every breath we're given. Y'all gonna work with me? You're gonna work with me, right? Yeah. There are no new strategies for overcoming a lie, but telling the truth, the whole truth. George Orwell says that in a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. There's always been a resistance to truth, to reason, and to science. But now it is at a whole new level. Because now what has been specifically targeted is the truth itself. And although the truth will always be the truth, its effects can be greatly diminished when there are coordinated efforts to silence and pervert it. Can what is happening in Russia happen here? An entire society that is being lied to with the suppression of truth about the war in Ukraine. There are people who face severe consequences for speaking the truth. People lose careers, homes, jobs, and even freedom, even their freedom simply for telling the truth. And even in our country, teachers are being fired because they dare to teach diversity in schools. In Florida, there's a chilling effect for people to not even utter the word gay in the classrooms. Across the nation, trans youth are being banned from competing in sporting events. And in Texas, they are investigating parents for child abuse if they allow their children to express themselves as they are. There is widespread pushback on critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, assaults on immigrants, on climate control, and attacks on a woman's right to choose, to exercise power over her own body. And the pushbacks are mostly based on lies, questionable or manufactured data, conspiracy theories, and really bad theology. We know the devastation such lies bring. Most of the world's conflict, confusion, and chaos are direct results of such lies, half-truths, and suspicion. It was a lie that started the war in Iraq. And a lie that started the war in Ukraine. And it is lies that are encouraging laws and bans against the interests of already marginalized individuals and communities. So as a person of color, and a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I've often felt the stings of indifference, suppression, and bias. I know what it feels like to be targeted. And I can imagine many of us are feeling deeply unsettled right now. Truth is a value at the core of who we are as people of faith, as people of conscience. And I've heard from many of you concerning how lately you have felt despair or are worn down and or discouraged. It may seem like those who support lies have the momentum. So there's a real sense of hopelessness among many of us. A friend recently remarked in a conversation, he says, "I'm so tired of being human. But I'm here today to encourage you." Mahatma Gandhi said, quote, "When I despair, I remember that all through history, the ways of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible. But in the end, they always fall. Think of it, always." End quote. We're at a crossroad or an inflection point in the history of the world. We will be buried in lies or one thriving on truth. Now, we in this movement have come too far, contending, reasoning, doubting, and proving the truth to now let the real truth be consumed and stolen away by lies, not on our watch. But here's my second point, and I have about 10 more points to go. People are still looking for change, hope, and truth that would matter in their lives. And I think this movement expresses it more than any other through the values and the deep reservoir of truth on which we live, move, and have our being. This religious community has been on the forefront for many, many years. Members of this community have been legislators, on boards, judges, policymakers. But more than anything, we have been a steady force of resistance. But our work is yet to be realized. There is much more to be done. Perhaps a lot more than we even imagined 5 or 6 years ago. Now, no doubt we are all a little discombobulated. COVID has certainly changed the way the world is and the way we respond to it. And some folks are hell-bent on taking their country back. So they have been able to take us back a bit. Now it's our time to assess how far we've gone. 50s, 60s. Journalist and author Bharat Dogra, in his article, "Looking for Hope in a Troubled World," says, quote, "Despite all the big problems, millions of people sincerely believe in notions of justice, mutual help, and cooperation. This understanding leads to millions of people acting in kind and helpful ways at several levels every day. Democracy was supposed to provide the space which would increase the possibilities for creating a world based on justice, peace, and safety, and environmental protection. But powerful groups who only want to strengthen their dominance and exploitation of the world have managed to distort and roll back democracy in many ways." He goes on, he says, "If it can be ensured that decisions regarding most serious problems are taken in conditions of transparency and truth, this can lead to resolving many complicated issues facing the world, including pandemics, as well as the enormous tensions and uncertainties created by them. These issues can be resolved in sustainable ways only by taking up the task of creating suitable value systems over a period of several years while continuing worldwide efforts. Some core values are essential, not just for creating a better and safer world, but also for saving it from ruin," end quote. He goes on to list the values that are deeply ingrained in our movement, such as the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equality, and compassion in human relationships, acceptance of one another, the goal of the world community, and the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. I think I was here for only a day when someone asked me about what church I attended. This is the original Okie hello. They don't even want to know your name, just what church. They might ask you your name afterwards, but what church? They're going to ask you, you're going to get that. It's the Bible buckle, right? Belt buckle of the Bible belt. But when they ask you about this community, I want to encourage you to try to avoid the long, drawn-out answers about who we are and what we're not. I think people are looking for a truth that is better than what they already have, because oftentimes what they have isn't working. I believe what they are really asking is that in all of our searching for truth, meaning in the years of study, research, meditation, dialogue, what have we found? What have we discovered? I realize that our method and meaning have been rooted in the search itself and often not in the disclosure of what we found. But if we are to respond to the post-truth era, we're going to have to talk about what we found, lest we be only a movement of forever seekers and not finders. In our search for truth, we've doubted, reasoned, compromised, and reconsidered. And now the question is, what treasures have we found? In our response lies the work of repairing the world. And this is the challenge before us today. We have always been our own answer. We have always been the change we wanted to see in the world. Perhaps you haven't been involved in the church community for a while and don't know how to reconnect. Or you may have spent your early years out on the front lines and you no longer have the youthful energy to give to hot causes. And while we truly appreciate the groundwork and the stones you laid and what you have built, you are still needed. You have value and you possess power. And you have truths learned along the way that can help someone else. So we're calling up the reservists, the retired, the battle-worn, the novices among us. Please come and join us. There's so much at stake. Let's re-engage, regroup, recruit, mobilize, and build on what we've already been doing for a long time. Perhaps come up with some new ideas. Maybe we can start by having intergenerational conversations with one another. The elders telling the history that is uniquely our story, the All Souls story. Because some of the young, energized folk in this church and the community, like the graduates today, may need some eldering or mentoring, including me. But I'm the energized, not the young. People will want to know the truth. What truth inspires you? How did you get through such times as these? And there are many groups in this church in need of volunteers and support. The Care Team, Day Alliance, Community Resource Bank, the Green Team, Partners in Education, Welcoming Souls, All Souls Trekkers, the Cancer Advocacy and Support Group, and many more. Can you name one or two? Did I miss? There we go. There we go. I just pinned for all these groups. I'm volunteers. I'm going to get a whole big list of volunteers in the next hour. So don't think that you are not enough, or that a group of 2 or 3 people in some cases can't do much for the cause of justice and truth. There are people in these groups who are truth warriors in the community. I've seen them out there. There are also likely thousands of other small groups across the nation and the world that are working on the same goals toward the greater good. Margaret Mead says, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So let us keep moving forward. No turning back. No going back. May it be so. Amen.
Please.
I'm gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. never turning back. Keep on moving proudly. We're gonna keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Keep on singing loudly. We're gonna keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back.